Yo dudes, how's everybody doing? So I paid a visit to a brand new arcade bar the other night that's just opened up in my home city of Bristol, called NQ64. That's part of a chain of arcade bars that originally started off up north, with sites in Liverpool, Manchester and Birmingham, but has now spread out to other parts of the United Kingdom, with sites in places like Edinburgh, Cardiff, Glasgow and Soho. I've been quite keen to come and check this place out ever since I found out that they've got a twin Outrun 2 SP cabinet here, but it was actually a very pleasant surprise to find out they've got two. The two twin cabinets were linked up for some potential 4-player games, but the cabinets were proving to be so popular they were never not in use, and people were playing games on the two twin cabinets out of sync. So although we managed some 2-player games, we weren't able to do a full 4-player setup unfortunately. Entry to the venue is free, with you just needing to pay for credits to play the games with when you get there. For £8 you get 15 tokens, with the arcade cabinets varying between 1 and 2 tokens per go, depending on whether it's a standard cabinet or something like a big deluxe sit-down arcade racer. The decor once you get inside the venue is self-described by them as neon splattered, and they have a selection of retro game-themed cocktails and craft beers, which I thought was a very nice touch. Now, I've done a couple of videos previously where I've done a walk around a few retro arcades, and my most recent one of these was my first experience of going to an actual arcade bar, which was 4 Quarters Arcade in Bristol, not far away from this place, which is also part of a chain. Normally the retro arcades have got some sort of background music playing, more often than not some sort of 80s mix, which you can hear in the background, intermingling with all the noises from the various arcade cabinets, in such a way that the combined melange of noise doesn't trigger YouTube's Content ID system. In the video I made about my visit to 4 Quarters Arcade, there were a couple of instances I actually had to mute the audio and put some different music over the top of it, because it kept triggering Content ID matches. Well, the music at NQ64 was at nightclub volume. It literally was drowning out any noise that you'd get from the arcade cabinets, or any bants between me and the group of lads I'd gone with. So I'm not going to be able to play any of the audio from the actual videos that I'm showing here, and I'm going to overdub this project with a custom soundtrack. The other little disclaimer I'm just going to add here is that unlike the visit to 4 Quarters, which was during the middle of the day, when it was kind of fairly busy but not particularly rammed, this was a city centre bar that we went to about 9:30, 10 o'clock in the evening, and it was absolutely packed. Normally when I'm just trying to get some footage of the games, I'm trying to get a fine balance between actually just getting some decent footage of these arcade cabinets without getting a load of random strangers in the videos too. Now normally I don't feel particularly self-conscious about going around these places with my phone videoing all these bits and pieces, but in this instance I was very acutely aware that I was in a busy bar in the city centre on a Saturday night, full of stag do's, hen parties and other assorted pissed up people who'd started their night off a lot earlier than I had. A lot of whom looked like they were at least a good 20 to 25 years younger than me. And I really didn't want to accidentally capture some footage of a couple playing a game, only for the boyfriend to then turn around and say something to me like,
"Here mate, are you recording my girlfriend? What are you, some kind of sex pervert or something? I ought to take you outside and batter you."
So apologies if any of the gameplay footage in this seems a bit rushed, or if the panoramas I'm sort of sweeping around the room with seem like they could have focused on something a bit longer. Annoyingly as well, when I got home and reviewed the footage, there were 2 videos that were entirely black screens, or I must have messed up pressing the record button or something on the phone. So I would have been holding the phone there, not recording anything, and then hitting the button to stop recording, but in fact actually then turning the recording on, resulting in several minutes of highly interesting footage of the inside of my trouser pocket. Fantastic. Now, don't get me wrong here or anything. There wasn't an aggy atmosphere in the place or anything like that. It's just it was a slightly different atmosphere compared to the daytime visits to arcades that I usually do. Now, as I mentioned at the start of the video, the big draw for me here was seeing their Outrun 2 SP cabinets, and it was a very nice surprise to find out they actually had 2 twin cabinets. What was slightly curious here was initially I thought this was just a regular Outrun 2 cabinet, because the SP variant that came after it, which featured 15 new stages, normally comes in a rather garish bright yellow colour, but no, it definitely is playing Outrun 2 SP. If you follow my YouTube channel at all, you'll probably know that I'm a bit of an Outrun 2 obsessive. I absolutely bloody love the game, and this was my first ever time actually properly playing Outrun 2 SP in the arcade. And what was interesting here was that the arcade machine had a couple of features that I was previously unaware of, like the ability to play the special versus track, which mixes and matches some of the regular Outrun 2 courses with some of the ones from Outrun 2 SP in a slightly different order. And the fact that your girlfriend, I think she's called Clarissa in this, but I can't quite recall, pops up constantly with little comments about how you're driving and what route you're taking. Toasty! Something that doesn't happen in the home version. Something that was also really cool on this particular playthrough is that I managed to trigger the Panzer Dragoon animation that happens in the bunkie section as you swap between stages. This is really hard to do in the home version, and is not the same as the generic Green Dragon animation that you can get if you manage to get through the first stage of the game without hitting any cars or coming off the track. What was really great here as well is that the last time I encountered a real life Outrun 2 cabinet, which was also in another Bristol city centre arcade, the steering was kinda messed up on both sides of the cabinet, and also it had had its CRT swapped out for wrong aspect ratio LCD monitors, which meant all the cars looked stretched out of shape. Fortunately, this was not the case here. All 4 of the cabinets had proper CRT screens that were displaying in the right aspect ratio, although the colours are a little bit off on the one that I was using in this video. And not only that, the wheels played properly and had working force feedback too. Amazing. This was also the case for the Sega Rally twin cabinet that they had on the floor below. The last time I encountered one of these, the game itself and the steering were behaving properly, but there wasn't any force feedback on the wheel at all. This took me a bit by surprise actually. My initial plan here was to try and do a little bit of one-handed driving whilst I was recording myself, and as soon as I realised the force feedback was working, I thought this isn't going to work. Fortunately though, a friend turned up at just the right time to take over for some cameraman duties. NQ64 also had a few other nice little surprises up its sleeve for me. The first of these was to see a working Chase HQ2 cabinet, which I've never ever seen out in the wild before. This again was in good working order with properly strong working force feedback. Another awesome game I've been hoping to see out in the wild at some point but have never encountered before was Pac-Man Battle Royale. Something I've been hoping to play in its proper 4-player multiplayer mode for ages now. And I'm pleased to report that now that I finally got round to it, it's just as much fun as I thought it would be. So I'm going to stop talking there, and let's carry on the tour of this place then, just having a look at the remainder of the footage I recorded. I will of course be doing some entirely separate uploads of the Outrun 2 versus games that I did, and also the Sega Rally game that I played as well. I'll join you here back at the end for some final thoughts. check it out. I nearly got the top score on their Bubble Bobble cabinet. So there we go then, NQ64 arcade bar in the centre of Bristol. A really excellent selection of games, reasonably priced for tokens, and I was really impressed with the fact that all the games seem to be in really good condition. And as I've already mentioned, I love the fact that the Outrun 2 cabinets had the proper correct aspect ratio CRT displays, as well as the Outrun 2, Sega Rally and Chase HQ 2 cabinets, all having proper working wheels and force feedback. That's really impressive. Excellent stuff, guys. So NQ64 comes highly recommended, but I would suggest that maybe if you're a bit of an old git like me, I am not far off 50 now, you might want to go for maybe a daytime visit rather than late in the evening like I did. So time to wrap things up there. If you've been to an NQ64 bar anywhere else in the country, let me know how you think this one compares. If you visited this one in Bristol, let me know what you thought of it. I'd be interested in hearing about your experiences. So, cheery ho gang, my name has been Mr. Thunderwing, and I will catch you again for the next video. Take care, bye bye.